Outer Orange.
This is my Discord and welcome back, y'all. So we got a bunch of news. People are kind of going like crazy on Twitter right now. It's like good things and bad things and kind of all over the place. So with that being said, there's a lot of excitement. I just want to give you guys just a quick warning. I'm not the biggest expert when it comes to this kind of stuff because I actually didn't play during the era that we're going to be discussing here. So pretty much what happened is Premium got a pretty big buff to G cards, which is the older cards that were pretty much a thing right before Premium dropped. And like I said, I don't know all the information. I'm not like I didn't play during that format. Actually, I don't know much about it, but you know, the main like mechanics, I guess, or the rulings of it. But to say that I know a lot about it, I really don't. Those cards are kind of very extinct, except now they'll be coming back with these new reveals that we got. So I don't know everything, but I did want to kind of talk to you guys about it, the positives, the negatives of sort of what this will impact, kind of how this will change, and what this will do for the future of Premium, as Premium is the eternal format that is just has every single card. And also with the Stride decks coming out for D, you can actually take those decks and compete now with, well, you can use them and like change them up a little bit, but you can actually use them with some of this new stuff that they're offering as well, which could be a big game factor. We'll have to see. Some people have already been speculating sort of what Jet and Messiah can bring to the Premium format, and also just budget wise, it's actually pretty good since you can just take that deck and change it up a little bit and add this new collection that'll be dropping, which will just amplify that. But anyway, let's get started. Let's talk about sort of what this is. So pretty much this right here, these cards are being changed completely, I would say is the best way to put it. Like I would say originally I thought it was gonna be like an added skill or something, but they really are being revamped essentially. So this right here is a crit that will now be a 15k crit and have 10k power, and then it also got an additional skill which is down here somewhere. I don't know where it is. Oh, right here. So this crit got an additional skill, and the additional skill is now when it appears in a drive in a damage check, you can draw one. So this is the exact same skill as the Vanguard 0 skill. So if you've played Vanguard 0 in the past or are familiar with Vanguard 0, this is something that they did in there as well, and now they put that ability into the TCG as well, which I actually really like. I like this idea. I like the fact that the crit can be a draw too. It's actually something when I was playing 0, I actually really enjoyed this factor when they put it in. I thought it was really nice. It can be a little busted. It was pretty busted against like Luard because Luard can just keep sending it back and rechecking it, sending it back and rechecking it. But I don't remember exactly which crit that they had that on. It might not have been the same one. But regardless, as long as it can't be too abused, I actually think this is a very fun skill. I also think it just adds a little bit more defensive play. And there is a 10k now buff on these. So instead of getting 5k defensively, you can get 10k on top of also drawing a card. And I think that's just pretty huge. So that's really nice. And it's only in damage checks. So again, it's only when you take damage that this applies. Otherwise, these pretty much are the same. Now the big game changer is actually the strides. So there's a bunch of on-hit strides that every clan has essentially, and I don't remember if they were the first strides that dropped or if they're a little bit later, but they're really not very good in the TCG. They're a little bit better in 0 because on-hitting is just a lot easier to do in 0, but in an actual TCG you can just guard, and because you can just guard, you can just go around the on-hit pretty easily. You can drop a perfect guard, you can 2-pass, 3-pass, whatever, and it's really not a big deal. You kind of just don't let the on hit happen and you just move on with your life. But now they're allowing the on hits to actually have their skills go off anyway, and this will be happening for all the cards down here. Pretty much every single clan is here, and actually Matt provided us an image down here as well. This is all the cards that will be pretty much getting the errata effect happening. So all these on hit cards will now have the skill activate regardless, so the on hit just doesn't matter anymore. You can do the skill, which I like because like I said, on hit cards are just dead in TCG. They're a little bit better in D, but in terms of like older cards, like they just do absolutely nothing for the game. These are very power crept out, but now with that the effects activate anyway, they can actually bring some stuff. But there is kind of like a little caveat behind it. Like you have to pretty much play old cards in order to even activate some of these skills. So right here it says active the G zone, which is the extra deck essentially. If you have a Vanguard, grade 3 Vanguard with alt mile in its card name. So in this case it would only work with this exact Vanguard. Can't use any other Vanguard. So if you were to stride into this, you can only do it with like this Vanguard, and all of these will follow a similar concept, but they'll have their own Vanguard. So a good example is Grand Blue will be using Night Rose probably. Like there isn't a guarantee that's gonna be Night Rose, but it's probably gonna be Night Rose based off the similarity of how they're reprinting the set. They're bringing back like grade 1 cards that can search for grade 3s, and they only search for very specific grade 3s. So it's very obvious that this will probably be Night Rose, for example. So in this case it would be Night Rose, and this one it's alt mile. So what it says, if you pretty sure Vanguard alt mile now that is a grade 3, and you do not gain an imaginary gift or something you can only do with V cards, you can cost discard a card, one or more, pretty much has to be an equal of 3, and you can stride this card right here on your Vanguard, and pretty much now you're on grade 4, and then you can pay an additional cost by flipping one card in your G zone with the same card name as the card. So pretty much you flip a copy of this, it's face down, you flip it up, and you gain 2 imaginary gift force, and then you can activate this card's original on hit skill effects even if it did not hit. So what does that exactly mean? So pretty much what that says is the minute you ride to grade 3, as long as you meet the conditions, mainly the whole imaginary gift condition, you can stride, which is very, very big. That is something that is usually pretty closed off. Usually there is a ruling where you and your opponent have to both be on grade 3 in order to do that, which enables a lot of grade 2 gaming. It's a concept people talk about a lot, the concept of grade 2 gaming, by denying your opponent to stride first. You do that by not riding up. If you ride up to 3 and then your opponent rides up to 3, they can instantly stride on their turn, right? So to deny that, you just stay on 2 and you force them to ride up first. That way when you ride up, you can stride. So that's kind of what grade 2 gaming is. It's a very new concept to a lot of D players, or it's actually a concept that we brought into when Jet comes out, so you might see a little bit more of that grade 2 gaming type of stuff because you can actually stride with Chrono Jet, and to avoid that you can just stay on 2 and force your opponent to not be able to stride, which is actually a lot of stuff that people try to do in D right now with Jet because Jet just gets so oppressive with the crest and everything. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then this does have an additional effect which is really good, this whole flipping your G zone thing. So G zone has a GB activity thing, so pretty much GB means for every card you have flipped in your G zone you get effects, and they are locked. So if you GB1 means you have to have 1 flip, GB2 means you have to have 2 flipped, and so on and so forth. And there's some late game cards that are GB8 and stuff like that. So this is also letting you have GB2 access, which a lot of the older cards are locked behind GB2, which is actually very perfectly designed to be able to play your GB2 cards, which again are usually behind whatever this Vanguard is. Night Rose has one as well. She has a GB2. If something was retired, she can call the same card back out. A really interesting skill. I've never actually played old Night Rose, so I might be a little bit off here on how it works, but there's a bunch of cards that have GB2 on them, and most of them do, and I think all those cards that have GB2 will probably be flying along with the strides that we're getting here. One thing that's a little scary, and this is kind of where this starts getting a little bit worse, it's this last part here. You gain 2 imaginary gift force. Now I've talked to people in the past about how to fix the gift issue. A lot of us talked about how maybe forcing the person who goes first to just not be able to get a gift marker at all, and having the person that goes second to be able to acquire 2 instead. Now here is kind of the opposite of that, and instead if you go first and you ride to grade 3 and you have the condition of the right Vanguard and you don't have any markers, you just get 2, which is kind of a big deal. 2 is a lot. So a lot of and by the way, so this one is force, so the other clans like Excel and Protect, I'm assuming will probably get those instead. So you would get 2 excels or 2 protects, or whatever. You have to pick between gift 1 and gift 2, but you would just instantly get all that, which is a lot of stuff that you can just get by going first. And a lot of people talked about how marker spam is an issue, and trust me, it's a very common subject. So seeing something like this come out is kind of the caveat I feel of this, and this kind of where the negatives start falling. I'm not like 100% sold on the fact that it's broken, but I can see where issues can start coming up. If you go first, you can instantly get 3 markers, and pretty much as long as you have Percival in hand, you can get 3 markers on your stride turn, which is quite a lot. Percival is very busted. There might be a thought to maybe choice restrict him with the stride or something to kind of make it a little less oppressive. 3 markers is a lot because your opponent can try and activate Ultima and then go into Ultima right after that and just finish you off with 4 markers essentially. It's pretty brutal, and I don't know exactly how effective this is. Of course, this is completely speculation. I just want to be known this is strictly speculation. I haven't tested anything. This just dropped, right? So, but that's just one example of where I can feel the abuse can happen. I don't think that's the best example. There might be better ones. There might be worse ones. Now, something to keep in mind, these are 11k Vanguards. Currently, we don't know if they're going to change that or not. I assume they're not, but there is actually a chance that they might buff them up similar to how Jet gets buffed up with a crest. But I don't know if they'll do that. I don't know if it's worth doing that because actually in V format, there's a lot of differences in bases, mainly with Excel and Protects. Those are 12k bases, while Force is 13k bases. bases, and if they were to buff up the old cards to 13k bases, it might make it a little awkward. I don't really know. I don't know where the, you know, where the line falls with a lot of stuff, so I don't know if they would be worth doing that. But I don't fully like the whole imaginary gift gaining. I know the point of this is to bring old cards back and to give them essentially a gift marker without actually having to errata the entire card to give it a gift marker, which I think is pretty interesting. And I like the idea of this because not only does it bring old cards back, but it also lets people try new things with their old cards, and it also, the fact that they're GB2 restricted cards, it makes the GB2 become active, which makes the cards play a little bit faster, on top of also the Excel, on top of the imaginary gift marker generation, which is something the cards never had access to, because a lot of the cards don't have like insanely good skills. They're like okay, they're nothing too broken, they're nothing insane, but it's possible that with the gift markers acceleration and going first and being able to unlock GB2 that they might get stronger, which is kind of where, you know, a lot of the fuzziness comes in. Like where is the goods and the bads? Like where does it become broken, or where does it become too strong? Because as I mentioned, gaining 2 gift markers is kind of big, but we'll see. Like I said, I'm not I never played with these cards ever in my life. I own my Night Rose Night Fog SPs, and I literally just got them through a friend who sold her entire collection, and because of that I was able to obtain a lot of these cards, but I've never played with them in my life because I've never played in this type of, in a format where the cards were useful, but now they could be. So, and I like that about that. I like the fact that these cards can come back. I like the fact that people can play with these cards. I like the fact that these are getting reprinted as well. And then, you know, also if you want to buy old trial decks, you can now, just to see how old Vanguard used to be. And I also think it's a really good introduction for people who haven't played this format, similar to people like me, and now get to play in this format and see sort of what it's all about, and kind of see what people really liked about G. It's different G, it's not the same. Obviously there's gift markers attached to this, so it's like kind of G and V kind of in its own little world, but I think overall it's just a really good concept. And like I said, there's more down here. You can check it out. If you're in my Discord, you can look at these. They're in the card reveal section right here, so they're here doing their thing. And overall it's very interesting. I'm actually very excited. I know I went on a whole rant just now about all this because I just have a lot of thoughts and a lot of theories and just a lot of interesting stuff, and I can't wait to test some of this stuff, and I just can't wait to see some old cards come back. People making jokes about the train. This is from Murakuma. It's just a funny train. Here's the Grand Blue one, by the way. Here's the Bermuda one. I'm just overall really excited. I think it'll definitely open up the format. I think it'll add a lot of good stuff. Hopefully it doesn't break anything too crazily, because like I said, you have to run old cards to make this work, and also this is definitely more superior going first than it is going second. So it's not like going second, I feel like it's not as insane, because going second you can actually choose to just go into a different stride, stronger strides, because there's a, you know, 2020 and 2022 strides are just very oppressive and very good, and I think 2019 strides are also part of this too, but they're very strong, and the old strides are not as strong. However, they are strong going first in this situation, so we'll have to see sort of how that all works. And I'm just overall really excited. I can't wait to see how this all plays out. I can't wait to use some of my old cards. I have my old strike crits too, so now I can actually play them. This also fixes some of the ride down issues that people have been having recently. If you go first into a ride down deck, if they ride down, they lose the heal guardians, and they only really roll rock, and what's going on is they're on a 10k base while you're striding on them and getting 2 markers. So that's another thing to kind of keep in mind. I think there's currently a lot of big ride down meta, and I think this stuff like this will kind of help with that. But also if you're going second, I feel like it's kind of weird. If you're going first, it's kind of interesting, but it kind of has its ups and downs. It kind of just depends on what the opponent does, if they choose to ride down on you or not, or if they try to stay out too, or whatever they try to do. But heal guardians are really nice in this type of situation, so you kind of want to use your heal guardians, but if you ride up and then forcefully ride back down, you lose access to that. So it's kind of going to be interesting to see if people are going to play more roll rocks, are people going to even ride down anymore, is there a point to ride down, if maybe there'll be one deck that's kind of really oppressive to where you don't want to ride down into it. Another, again, going back to golds, if they can call a whole board out with two Excel markers, I feel like that's pretty solid actually when you're on grade 2 and you already wrote down and you don't have heal guardians as your access, and your only access is roll rocks, you know. But on the other hand, giving too much damage is also really scary. If you give some decks too much damage, they can just straight up kill you. So if you choose to ride down and then your opponent gives you a ton of damage, you survive, and then you ride up and stride, that's actually very scary too. But I also think it adds a lot of more applications, a lot more stuff that people can try out. You have a lot more decisions they have to make depending on how, like I said, how each deck is going to function. I just rambled for like 16 or so minutes about premium, about stuff that I barely know anything about. Sorry if I'm not like perfect in this type of realm. I know stuff, but I usually know stuff within like the 2 clans that I play, which is Grand Blue and Bermuda. So sorry if I'm like not super well versed on this side of the spectrum. I only know meta. I know meta more than I know like how decks function, if that makes sense. That's kind of where my strong suit is, because usually when I test in premium, I test into the meta that's currently there, and that's how I find out how to play around it or what to do in those situations. That's sort of where my knowledge comes from, but I know very little about old cards. So, and these are old cards, so I'm doing my best here. Tell me me in the comments below how you feel about certain things, how you feel about all this happening, what are you gonna build, what are you gonna play, what are you most excited for? Tell me all that below. Do not forget to subscribe. It helps me do my thing. Peace out. That's Vidania. See you guys in a future video. Bye.